everyone, and welcome to the new season of the DTM 2023. It's a whole new era and we're super psyched to be back. We're here in Oschersleben, beautiful weather, a lot of spectators, and we're absolutely excited for the first race of the season. But beforehand, here's a little highlight. Check it out.
DTM, 3 letters that stand for one thing: full throttle. Finally, it's time to start again. Finally, some motorsport.
Welcome to Oschersleben as we're all set for our first track action of a brand new season.
DTM season number 37 is about to start.
I'm really excited. Every new season is a new chance to do some cool things, win some races, hopefully lots of podiums. Been a busy start to the year with Nürburgring preparations, but now finally my favorite championship, which is DTM, and looking forward to the championship.
Fans can look forward to 8 legendary racetracks this year. The curtain raiser for the new season is at Oschersleben, a special track that has made it back onto the calendar after 8 years away.
Oschersleben is a very technical track, so not an easy track, challenging for a driver and also for the car. You need to run a lot of curb, so it's quite tough on the cars, and obviously it's hard to overtake in the race, so qualifying will be important.
14 teams are sending absolute rockets of horsepower onto the stage, with Audi, BMW, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Mercedes-AMG and Porsche, plus 27 top GT drivers with a mission.
I want to establish myself in the DTM.
I want to win the championship.
I want to survive the first corner without any scratch.
Above all, they'll be chasing this man, Sheldon van der Linde. He won the title last year with an outstanding season. It shouldn't be the last.
I want to defend the championship this year. It'll not be easy with such a good driver field. It's only getting stronger every year, and we have a lot of good new drivers, young drivers in the series this year, so it's obviously the goal to defend the number 1 in the car and not have someone else steal it from me.
The DTM is back, and everyone's up for it. The season starts now at Oschersleben. So it's Oschersleben that hosts the opening round of DTM 2023, a circuit that can catch drivers out, as we saw in 2020, even off the start line. There can be action here. It's difficult to overtake, but it's possible. And Martin Tomczyk and Tom Christensen showed going side by side in 2004. The first ever winner here at DTM was Manuel Reuter back in 2000, and it's our first visit to the circuit since the 2015 season. The circuit is just under 3.7 kilometres long with 14 turns, and we've got beautiful weather conditions here at 19 degrees Celsius and a gentle breeze for the first of 16 races in this new era of DTM, now run by the ADAC. A massive crowd has gathered here to see these drivers in action. There are 27 of them, but 9 of them are rookies, so lots of new faces on the grid, but there are also some familiar names to DTM fans, including Sheldon van der Linde, the reigning champion, although the South African has only managed to qualify on the 10th row of the grid.
No, obviously not happy with 19th. We had a small issue in qualifying where another car went off and then brought gravel back onto the track, so that didn't help. So yeah, for sure we're on the back foot here, but we'll see. I mean, normally you can't really overtake around Oschersleben, but obviously we're going to try and do our best from here and try and score a few points.
So a lot of work to do for Sheldon from 19th on the grid, but he was quickest in free practice on Friday. In qualifying, though, Mirko Bortolotti has qualified 3rd on the grid for the first race of the season, the driver that was 4th in the championship last year. On his debut, Jack Aitken has qualified 2nd in the brand new Ferrari 296 for Emil Frey Racing, who are also new to DTM. But Frank Pereira is on pole position in the Lamborghini run by the SSR Performance Squad. It's only his 2nd weekend in DTM and his first full season. Just 18 thousandths of a second separated the top 2 in qualifying. In DTM, the top 3 in qualifying still score points, so 3 points for pole position, 2 points for qualifying second and a point for third. But rather than the top 10 scoring points in the races, this year it's the top 15 that will score points with a new structure. We've also got slightly longer races at 60 minutes plus 1 lap, 5 minutes longer than last year as we see the grid with Pereira and Aitken on row 1, Bortolotti and Wiesova on his debut on the 2nd row of the grid. Ricardo Feller and Thomas Preining, both race winners last year, are 5th and 6th, with Tim Heinemann, the double DTM Trophy champion, and 3-time DTM champion René Rast next. Lauren Heinrich and Kelvin van der Linde make up row 5, and then we've got Dennis Olsen and Clement Schmidt on row 6, Christian Engelhardt and Thierry Vermeulen on row 7, Engin Nguyen and David Schumacher on row 8, Josef Owega and Lucas Auer, last year's runner-up, are next up. Sheldon van der Linde just inside the top 20. Two-time champion Marco Wittmann only 21st in the new Project 1 BMW, and Lucas Stoltz, who had a crash in free practice and had to replace the car, a race winner last year but back in 25th. So the crowd on the edge of their seats, ready for this brand new season of DTM. The rolling start about to get underway. Chris Hartley here to talk you through the action. The teams are poised, ready to go, and they'll be called into action in the mid-race mandatory pit stop. But here we go. To the right of the picture is the pole sitter Pereira as DTM 2023 gets underway. Jack Aitken alongside him. Bortolotti's made a good start in the second of the Lamborghinis, and it's going to be a Lamborghini 1-2 into turn 1 because Jack Aitken has slipped back to third place, and he's under attack here from Ricardo Feller just behind the first of the Audis, trying to come around the outside as well. You've got the Porsche of Tim Heinemann, who made a good start off the line, the two-time DTM Trophy champion, kicking up the dust here as they work their way through into the left-hander at turn 3, a slightly banked turn for the first time in the race, and then down towards this twisty infield section they will now go. A triple left-hand sequence coming up. It's still side by side for third place, and Ricardo Feller goes through, so Jack Aitken from second on the grid down to fourth position now. Then it's Tim Heinemann in 5th place and Thomas Preining in 6th position, a two-time race winner and the first ever driver to score a victory in the DTM for Porsche in 2022. The young Austrian should be one to watch this season. So this is the fantastic sequence of corners through the chicane, straight line in the chicane there with Sheldon van der Linde, and he's behind Marco Wittmann. So neither BMW making a particularly lightning start to the race, as Heinemann now looking around the outside of the Ferrari of Jack Aitken, but Jack just about hanging on to that 4th place. The top 3 making a break for it. It's been a good start as well for René Rast, now a BMW driver, the 3-time DTM champion. And look at this, side by side, and there's a bit of contact. Out wide goes the Ferrari, and through comes Tim Heinemann to pick up 4th place. You're looking then back now at Thomas Preining in the 6th place Porsche. He's moved across to the Manthey EMA team this season after racing with the Kuss Team Bernhard outfit on his debut season in 2022. Right, a replay of the start then. Keep an eye on the second of the Lamborghinis. Mirko Bortolotti, the Italian, tucked in right underneath the rear wing of the pole sitter, and the pair of them locks out the Ferrari into turn 1. And then trying to come around the outside look of Ricardo Feller was that Porsche on board with Jack Aitken. This was his perspective here, having dropped to 3rd place. This is the point of view from Kelvin van der Linde, who's trying to come up from the 5th row of the grid. The driver 3rd in the 2021 championship. And that was Heinemann there in the pink and turquoise Porsche being pushed out wide. No contact, but Ricardo Feller held his line, and Heinemann had to give second best. Another Porsche going well here is Lauren Heinrich in the number 75 machine as he gets up the inside of Mick Wieshover, who slipped back from the second row of the grid at the start of the race. Kelvin van der Linde is just behind that battle as well. So Lauren Heinrich, last year's German Porsche Carrera Cup champion, making his debut as well. Oh, but we got problems already here, I'm afraid, for Lucas Stoltz. It looks like a puncture on the front left here. They've had a woeful weekend after he crashed early on in the first test session on Thursday. He wasn't very quick on Friday. They had to replace the whole chassis for Saturday. His woeful weekend continues.
Somehow I'm not performing on the level I usually perform, so I'm a bit unhappy with myself. And then even in the race was kind of shit situation because I suffered a puncture and some front damage. Not the race I expect.
You ride on board with Kelvin van der Linde. Up ahead, Mick Wieshover's Lamborghini gets out wide, loses traction, and the Audi of the South African comes through as we get a replay of turn 2, and David Schumacher running way out wide in his Mercedes, losing around about half a dozen places. It's so easy to do that though. It's a really bumpy entrance into the corner, and the car gets unsettled very easily, but it'll get back on track and hopefully get back up the order. This is on board with Maro Engel, who is just behind that, watching all the action. Oh, there's a replay of Jack Aitken on his way into the pits now, wiping out one of the ADAC hoardings. No harm done to the car, though, as we go into this mandatory pit stop window now. This season, the rule being that everybody has to come in and change all 4 tyres between minutes 20 and 40 of the race. Now, replay on board with Sheldon van der Linde trying to come up from the 10th row of the grid. He's on the tail of Maro Engel. Maro runs out wide on the way out of turn 13, and the pair of them go side by side into turn 14. Oh, so close there as they come out of the turn. Sheldon's on the outside line for the next corner, turn 1, the left-hander, but a right-hander follows that. This is how it looked from Maro Engel's point of view. They were close enough to shake hands. Tiny bit of contact there. Neither of the drivers wanting to concede the position, but Sheldon ultimately getting through the BMW, moving up the inside on the way into turn 2. So finally, some positive news for Sheldon. Here's a great onboard looking back from the champion's car. And right behind the pair of them was Luca Engstler in the Audi, the former ADAC Germany TCR champion, trying to get in the mix. But Engel closes the door just in time to stop him coming through. Right, pit stop for Thomas Preining. And in the mandatory stop, you have to change the rears first, then the fronts. There's no refueling. You just have to change all 4 tyres. But they've had a problem here. Look, with the front left, the nut has come loose. That's rolled underneath the car. Valuable seconds lost here for Thomas Preining, who was fighting inside the top 6 and hoping to push for a podium here. So he'll rejoin now from the outside. He'll go across the blend line here in the Porsche. But he's understeering wide on the cold tyres. Onto the grass he goes. And a nightmare pit stop for Thomas Preining that's going to drop him down the order.
I'm not mad. I mean, nobody's mad at me either for going off on pit exit. Everybody has the reason to be pissed, but in the end, it's just human. Everybody makes mistakes, of course. When the rhythm is right, you tend to make less. So this is what we will work on tomorrow.
So let's take another look at that pit stop. In came Thomas. All was okay on the rears, but it's his front left that had the problem. And then tyre comes off, wheel comes off, and the nut came away from its thread there and became very difficult to align. Actually came out of the sitting out of the hub, and those valuable seconds then put Thomas under pressure coming out of the pits, which is possibly why he pushed a bit harder than he ought to have done on cold tyres, and then ran wide to make the problem even worse. You can see the nut running underneath the car there at the original nut that was lost. And then as Thomas rejoined on very cold tyres, already on the outside of the circuit from the blend line, it's very easy to make that error, and more time was lost. So that puts pay to a potential podium there. There's Olaf Mantai back in the DTM with the team. That team has won more Nürburgring 24-hour races than any other. Also, though, a problem with their other car, Dennis Olsen, because this is a replay of him being dropped off the jacks and then told to stop again, getting back up on the jacks, and then Dennis eventually released, so that compounds his problem as well. So the car's quick, the driver's quick, but the pit stops need a bit of work ahead of race 2 tomorrow. Here's another replay inside the pits. This is Sheldon van der Linde coming in then fairly late on in the pit window. The Schubert Motorsport team changed the rears, changed the fronts, drop him off the jacks, but they're not ready. He was dropped down too early. Sparks flew from the front right corner of the car, and had to get him back in the position on the box, get him back up, and then realign the wheel to get that front right on properly. And that was a terrible pit stop, I'm afraid. Schubert, who were excellent at pit stops last year, but I'm afraid a race which has not started well for Sheldon van der Linde. It's going to be even harder now for him to get up into the top 15 and into the points. Now this is the battle between Mirko Bortolotti, who's just come out of the pits. He's on cold tyres, so Ricardo Feller, who's already got his tyres up to temperature, slots up the inside in the number 7 Abt Sportsline Audi, and his teammate Kelvin van der Linde will fire himself past Bortolotti as well. So too will Lauren Heinrich. So Bortolotti losing positions here with that strategy to make the pit stop late. He was running in the top 3 before the pit window opened. If he wants to get back into the top 3, he's going to have to do a fair bit of overtaking in the remaining 20 minutes of this race. So has that strategy cost Bortolotti the chance of a podium? And has he now got the car underneath him to catch them all back up?
I immediately felt that something is really weird in the car. The car didn't feel as usual. It was really weird to drive. It was a survival fight for me to try to finish the race without spinning or losing the cars. And
I'm afraid retirement in the opening round of 2023 for the defending champion, Sheldon van der Linde. A day to forget here at Oschersleben.
Yeah, I mean, generally today was just not my day. It started off with qualifying. When you start at the back here, you have no real hope of coming forwards in the end, so I'm not really surprised with the result, to be honest. We then did the pit stop and the guy dropped the car too soon while the guy was still putting the wheel on, so unfortunately there was an issue there, and then we just retired the car because we're out of the points.
So Pereira leads, Heinemann is second, Aikens back up into third, and then this is the battle for fourth place as we go into the final 15 minutes of this race. René Rast versus his teammate from last year, Ricardo Feller. Here's a replay of David versus Goliath, the big BMW up against the much lower slung Audi. They've been nose to tail for a few laps now, really having to defend hard. Here is the three-time champion, the 25-time DTM race winner, René Rast, now of course for the first time a BMW driver, and he'll really want to keep the Audi behind him because of course that was the brand that he drove for previously. So great battle going on there for fourth and fifth positions. Kelvin van der Linde, he's up into sixth place. Lauren Heinrich is seventh. Mirko Bortolotti down to eighth after the pit stops. Christian Engelhardt and Dennis Olsen rounding out the top 10. Thomas Preining, after his botched pit stop, is down in 11th place now. Clement Schmidt, Maro Engel, Joseph Owega on his debut, and Ayenjan Nguyen are rounding out the points finishers. It's all looking very good for Frank Pereira in the SSR Performance Lamborghini. Looking for Lamborghini's first ever DTM win as Ricardo Feller finally gets past René Rast to charge up the inside there. René was struggling for grip. Ricardo's looked the quicker of the two for some time now, and this was him slinging it up the inside, just a slight gap left open. Out wide goes René Rast, and there was no way Ricardo Feller was going to give that opportunity up lightly. So the Audi coming through up into fourth place. So as the pair came out of turn 3, that the BMW ran a little bit wide into turn 4. Feller made the move.
Ricardo had a better set of tires on the car. He had a different strategy and therefore was a bit quicker, and I was sure that I cannot really defend for many more laps, and in the end he just was a bit quicker.
Yeah, it was really cool. I enjoyed the fight. It was fair and very tight. Took some laps to get me into the position to get next to him. Yeah, but in the end it worked out. I'm really happy.
So into the closing stages, René Rast down to fifth place, and just behind him this battle for sixth position between Kelvin van der Linde, who only just qualified in the top 10, so it's been a pretty good race for him after a disappointing 2022 campaign. Lauren Heinrich going well on his debut in the Porsche, just behind in seventh. Mirko Bortolotti still can't quite get back up the order and get involved after that pit stop, so he's there in eighth place with Engelhardt and Olsen rounding out the top 10, but Olsen's a long way back. He's just coming into shot in that bright green Porsche. So this is the closest battle on track. Pereira is well on the way to victory with less than a minute to go now, plus one lap in this opening round of the championship. Lauren Heinrich is getting ever so close though to the tail of Kelvin van der Linde. Van der Linde, the two-time GT Masters champion and a Nürburgring 24-hour race winner, ended up having a torrid 2022 season after very nearly winning the championship at the first attempt in the 2021 season. Here's a great view back from Kelvin's wing mirror there, and you can see them working their way through the chicane here as they're going towards the latter part of this first race of the championship. So there's Feller in fourth place, Rast in fifth, and then this battle for sixth place between Kelvin van der Linde and Lauren Heinrich, who's come up from Porsche Carrera Cup Germany and the Porsche Super Cup, in which he was the top 3 finisher last year. As Frank Pereira goes on to the final lap of the race here at Oschersleben. SSR Performance then, only in their second season of DTM, a relatively new team as well. It's their first season working with Lamborghini, rattling through the curbs of the chicane for the final time comes the race leader, Frank Pereira from France. He had a debut, a guest spot in DTM last year. He was quick, but he got tangled up in a big accident, didn't score any points. He's going to score 20 points now though, because he's almost home and dry, and it's been a pretty dominant performance from the pole sitter. He wrestles the Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 through the final sequence of corners here. He can almost taste the champagne, and Lamborghini are about to become race winners in DTM for the first time as Frank Pereira from France wins round 1 of DTM 2023. Second place on his debut goes to Tim Heinemann, and on his debut Jack Aitken gets a podium in the first ever run out in DTM for the new Ferrari 296. Everybody applauds, and that means that we've now got 11 different race winners on the grid. And Frank Pereira, how many more will he get this season? That was the perfect start to his first full year in the championship. And you can see just what it means to the team, Stefan Schlund's team at SSR Performance. So confirmation of the results. Pereira, Heinemann and Aitken will be on the podium. Ricardo Feller was the best Audi in 4th place. René Rast on his debut for BMW in 5th. Kelvin van der Linde 6th. Lauren Heinrich 7th. Mirko Bortolotti will be disappointed with 8th. Christian Engelhardt and Dennis Olsen round out the top 10. Problems in the pit stop cost Thomas Preining. He was 11th with Clement Schmidt, Maro Engel, Josef Awega on his debut in DTM and Thierry Vermeulen on his debut as well, both making it into the points in the top 15. But great disappointment, of course, for the defending champion Sheldon van der Linde, and so too for Marco Wittmann. Both of them out of the race and scoring 0 points in the opening round of the campaign. So huge congratulations to Frank Pereira, now a race winner in DTM.
No, really happy, really proud. For me, it's like I say the previous interview, it's been sometimes up and down in my career, and I still believe in myself, and I know I have a lot to give, and the age is just a number, so I continue to push hard.
So the oldest driver in the field wins, but it's one of the young guns coming home in second.
It's super amazing. It feels surreal a bit. P7 in the qualifying was already mega, and as a rookie against all these factory drivers, I was really happy about it. But now standing on the podium is just an amazing feeling, and that was only the first race weekend, so let's see how we can continue.
And despite falling back at the start, a great 3rd place for Jack Aitken.
I think I could have been a little bit better today. You know, we had a rough start with some contacts and things, and I think really we could have either had 2nd place quite easily. So tomorrow we will try a bit better and see where we go.
So joyous celebrations about to get underway down in the pit lane. Frank Pereira has got a maximum score today of 28 points and is the early championship leader from Tim Heinemann and Jack Aitken, Ricardo Feller, René Rast and Kelvin van der Linde. But today it's all about this man. Onto the roof of the car for Frank Pereira and onto the top step of the podium. Our first podium presentation of the season. The first of 2 races here at Oschersleben. A victory for Frank Pereira and victory for Stefan Schlund's SSR Performance team, as well as the champagne flows here at the end of day 1 of competition. Great performance as well from the team there. They have set the benchmark at the start of the season. So Frank Pereira, 28 points, 8 clear of Tim Heinemann. He picked up TalkSport WRT's first ever podium in DTM, and likewise Jack Aitken did the same for Emil Frey Racing. The DTM is booming. Everyone is in the mood for the new season, and you can see that in the Magdeburg region too. The fans enjoyed the best summer weather.
To organize and to promote DTM is a pleasure, but quite a challenge. This morning I had a walk through the paddock and I saw excited people, and everybody's looking forward to a great weekend.
35,000 spectators make a pilgrimage to the motorsport arena Oschersleben over the entire weekend. And there's a complete package for them. Racing on the track, experiences off track.
The fans can expect a very amazing season. You see the atmosphere here. We try to do everything to entertain the fans on the track and off the track, in the paddock and in the surrounding. And I think we did a very good move here on the first event.
Hello everyone, here we are in Oschersleben. It's the whole new DTM season 2023. Race 2 is just about to start and we are excited. Yesterday, for the first time in the history, a Lamborghini won here in race 1, and now we've got a Porsche in the front. So it's going to be very exciting, and the man who actually managed to get pole position is Thomas Preining. And last year you won twice already, but this time it's a premiere that you got pole position. So I guess, how are you going to do it to make a victory out of it?
I think the start needs to be good. This is clear to stay ahead, and then let's see if we have the pace. I think the quali looked promising, of course. So I think we have good cards, and we just need to manage the situation in the best possible way.
Best of luck, Thomas. Thank you so much. And we're going to go over here to P2 because there we've got Tim Heinemann, and he's already at the car. So let's find out how he's feeling. Obviously, it's a good starting position from P2, and let's see how his spirits are. But knowing Tim Heinemann, he's always in good spirits. Hey Tim, starting from P2 today. Yesterday already was a fantastic day, so how are you going to repeat that?
To finish P1, it would be an amazing weekend. But yeah, starting yesterday with P2 was already amazing and a big dream come true. Now to be in the front again is a bit of surreal, but yeah, it motivates us to do even better than yesterday. And yesterday we were the first losers on P2, so yeah, goal for today is clear.
And just a quick question, being part of the DTM family, how does it feel?
Amazing. It was a big dream of mine since I was a kid. I was in the grandstand myself, and to stand here today now as a DTM driver and in the front of the grid is just an honor, and really great feeling.
Fantastic. Best of luck for the race, Tim. Thank you. And now here are your commentators.
So here's how they line up for the second race of the weekend. Thomas Preining with the maiden pole position. Tim Heinemann shares the front row. Clement Schmidt going well this weekend, starts third. Likewise, Mirko Bortolotti in fourth. Then it's Dennis Olsen and Iengen Nguyen rounding out the top six. But more disappointment for Sheldon van der Linde. He's back in 15th spot on the grid, and Marco Wittmann's weekend just won't get going. He starts 22nd. So there's Mirko Bortolotti. He's qualified third and fourth so far this weekend. How's he enjoying the new DTM so far?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's great to see all the guys, all the fans back following the DTM. It was a long winter break. We were all waiting for this moment to be back on track for a new season. So it's great to be in Oschersleben with a full house. And now let's focus on the race and try to have a good one.
So an absolutely packed grid here in the sunshine at Oschersleben, ready for the next 60-minute plus one-lap encounter. There's Tim Heinemann, who starts second on the grid. He's been one of the stars of the weekend so far. And for TalkSport WRT, he starts on the front row of the grid for this one as well. A star in GT4 racing and a very good GT3 career so far. Let's see how he gets on in the next race. But he'll have to get past this man. Thomas Preining picking up the pole position award, a maiden pole position, 2 wins last year on his way to 5th place in the championship, and he might have finished higher had he not been involved in that huge shunt we had at Hockenheim at the end of last season. He'll be out for victory. He races with the Manthey EMA team, the Australian flag, the kangaroo there, because it's a German-Australian collaboration. And there's a new collaboration between René Rast and BMW this year. A solid start on day one with a 5th place finish, but he's back on the 6th row of the grid for this one.
And now I'm here in P11, René Rast. Hello there, how are you doing?
Hello, welcome. I'm good, and you?
Yeah, very good. It's sunshine, we've got plenty of people. So yesterday you were 5th in the race. Today you got to fight a bit harder. How are you going to manage?
I don't know yet. Starting a bit further back, P11 today. It's going to be very difficult, but I just heard that we are on a bit of a different strategy in terms of tires. So yeah, let's see. It's going to be very exciting.
But looking forward to it, obviously, and I guess it's good to be back in Oschersleben since 2015, the first time.
Yeah, definitely. Racing in DTM is always spectacular, so I'm looking forward to it. And I think we're gonna see a lot of interesting fights today.
So BMW with some work to do in this race, but also with a lot of work to do is yesterday's race winner from Pereira. He's back in 18th spot on the grid. Almost the entire field in qualifying was separated by just 9/10 of a second. He's also got Jack Aitken alongside him there, starting 17th on the grid. He was, of course, on the podium on the first race of the season. Going well, though, in qualifying. Clement Schmidt with his second best ever DTM qualifying. He'll line up third. He was on the front row of the grid at the final round at Hockenheim last season. He had a good start to the race yesterday, but slipped back to finish in 12th place. Still, that's a good start with some points in the bag for the Grasser Racing Team driver Clement Schmidt, the Austrian driver. It was a really frustrating day yesterday, though, for Sheldon van der Linde. He couldn't get the lap in qualifying. He couldn't get through in the race. They had the problem in the pit stop. And then, of course, he retired from the race altogether, and he's got a pretty lowly grid position this time as well. It is warmer than yesterday, 21 degrees, but the track temperature is considerably higher. So that is the key thing here. They'll have to work on the setup, maybe change the setup from yesterday. They all run this season on Pirelli tyres, and various rule changes, including the length of the races, the amount of points scored. There's some changes to the success ballast as well. The top three will carry success ballast in this race. That's more work to do and more dramas for the likes of Front Pereira and Jack Aitken, who are a long way back. But the one driver that was on the podium yesterday that's at the front again today is that man, Tim Heinemann. He's going to be lining up second. It's a Porsche 1-2, a lockout on the front row of the grid. Thomas Preining was quick yesterday and qualified in the top 6. He looked like he might be able to push for a podium finish until he had a problem in the pit stop as well. There's British ski star Dave Riding, who holds the Start Your Engines board aloft. He's been doing some work and training with some of the DTM drivers over the winter as they now head out onto the formation lap, ready for what's going to be another rolling start here. So a very different look to the grid for this second race of the weekend. One last chance for the drivers to get their eye in, to get focused, and to have a plan of attack on the run down that straight into the left-right flick at turns 1 and 2. So the team's then ready to go. Manthey will be hoping for a better pit stop this time around. It was a real struggle for both of their drivers in the middle of the race yesterday. Again, it's a mandatory pit stop for everybody, but have to do it between minutes 20 and 40, so the middle third of the race. Let's see what the tactics are today, because we're about to go racing for the second time in DTM 2023 here at Oschersleben. To the right of your picture is Thomas Preining, the youngster from Austria, with alongside him Tim Heinemann as we go racing here. And it's a good start for the pole sitter. Heinemann's kind of going with him, but Clement Schmidt has got a great start here, and he's going to split the two Porsches on the way through turn 1. Dennis Olsen's made a good start as well. Thomas Preining's teammate, so he's there in 4th place. He was a winner last year for Porsche at Spa. And the Norwegian gets a face full of dust as Heinemann runs out a little bit wide. Mirko Bortolotti trying to get in the mix as well in the Lamborghini up the inside on the way into the left-hander at turn 3. They're still 3 together, 3rd, 4th and 5th. I think Heinemann has still got it. Olsen, though, is under massive pressure here from Bortolotti. They head into turn 4, but Bortolotti has to back off out of the move, so Olsen hangs on to 4th place. Just behind them is Christian Engelhardt. Ayhan Güven has made a decent start as well. First ever Turkish driver to compete full-time in the DTM. He's there in 7th. Oweko was on the points on his debut on Saturday. He's there in 8th place as well. Engel was a bit wide and a bit ropey through the first couple of turns, but he's still there in 9th. And René Rast has made up 1 place in 10th. Lucas Auer, last year's championship runner-up, recovering from a huge accident at the start of the year at Daytona, broke his vertebra, but he's there in the points as well as Sheldon van der Linde goes on the attack and gains a place by the look of it. So van der Linde going for it as he needs to do here. That was on David Schumacher. That is for 15th place, so that gets him into the championship points. Schumacher was one of the drivers that went off the road in the first race yesterday and just missed out on the points. He's looking for his first points in DTM, having come close a few times last year. So Preining leads. Schmidt is second. There in 3rd place is Heinemann. Oh, that's some contact there between Maro Engel with the onboard camera and the Mercedes, and René Rast in the BMW. There they are. They've got Lucas Auer just behind them as well. But there wasn't contact, it was close to it. You've got Ricardo Feller trying to get up the inside of Lucas Auer behind this battle as well, but not quite able to do so. And then you've got Sheldon van der Linde in the red number 1 BMW for Schubert Motorsport. He's got ahead of Mick Wieshover now, who's had another pretty good qualifying after being 4th on the grid for race 1, but he's slipping back at the start of the race. So that's Sheldon van der Linde getting another place. That's up to 13th position now for the reigning champion, and he's onto the tail of Ricardo Feller in the Audi and trying to go around the outside of him. He's got 2 wheels on the grass here as they head down towards turn 1. The smoke pouring at the back right corner of Ricardo Feller's Audi. That might well be bodywork rubbing on the tyre, and hopefully that will wear itself away and won't be too much of a problem for Ricardo, who drove really well yesterday to get 4th place. Flashing the headlights there was Sheldon van der Linde. Out wide goes Ricardo Feller. No second invitation required. Sheldon is going for it today, and he is on a mission. So van der Linde with a much better start to this race than he had yesterday. He's got a slightly better grid position, not much of one, but he's made the most of the opening laps here as we get a replay of the start. And it was a very good start for Clement Schmidt from the 2nd row of the grid. You can barely see the Lamborghini, it's so low slung behind the Porsche of Thomas Preining. But when they got to turn 2, A Lamborghini had split the two Porsches. Look at this from Jack Aitken's Ferrari of Sheldon van der Linde, being forced out wide there with some contact and actually losing a couple of places. So that was him versus Ricardo Feller, round one. That was at the start of the race, and Feller just leaned on van der Linde. In fact, Feller was in the sandwich there, wasn't he? And completely surrounded. And it was onto the grass then for van der Linde, and then got him back, as we saw not long after. So here's a replay looking back at René Rast making a good start to the race, and that contact, or was it? Close. I think there was contact. Yes, there it was, with the left rear corner of the three-time champion versus Maro Engel's front right corner on his Mercedes. Lots of drivers really attacking at the start of this race. They were well behaved, weren't they, in race one, but it's definitely a bit livelier in race two. And this was the replay of Sheldon van der Linde versus Ricardo Feller, round two. And there was the contact with the right rear corner of Feller's car. That began to smoke, and the big BMW then on his case, trying to find a way through an attack and getting past eventually. And it was because of this, actually, because Lucas Auer had run a little bit wide, and that held Feller up. And eventually van der Linde got through, which is why he's now up to 12th place, Auer in 11th, both just outside the top 10. 10th is this man, René Rast, then, as the car spins and goes around, and the right rear wheel has come off the car, look. So the BMW in the gravel trap, you hardly ever see René Rast spin out of a race, but even the great man cannot drive a car with just 3 wheels on it.
Yeah, we lost the right rear tire, or rim, actually. There were some contacts in the first lap. We don't know exactly why it happened. We haven't had a look on the car yet, but probably because some contacts in the first lap.
So René Rast retiring from the second race of the weekend. Here's another replay. He actually rode over the wheel that had come off the car. So it was a hairy moment. It's a very fast part of the circuit to come off that. However, there was a nice big gravel trap there to catch him, so it could have been far worse. It was a high-speed moment, but actually the gravel trap did its job. But the most worrying part was when he actually went over his own wheel there, and the back of the car completely lifted off the tarmac. René completely powerless to be able to control that car, and they can see it coming away completely from damage. That was the right rear corner of the BMW. When we saw him battling away on the opening lap with Maro Engel, it was the other side of the car that made contact with the Mercedes. So whether that's from some other contact, whether it's a knock-on effect, not sure. But it's not the side of the car that he hit Maro Engel with. And just behind Lucas Auer with the onboard camera was having to take evasive action there as well. You can see the car of René Rast, the BMW, spinning into the gravel trap just to his right. But Lucas avoided that and, of course, gains another place. And eyes wide open in disbelief watching all of that go on back in the garages. So dramatic start to the race here. And not a good one, I'm afraid, for René Rast. Here's another replay of their battle, René Rast and Maro Engel. I'll tell you what, Maro Engel was all out of road there, and I think he'd had a few collides before that as well, earlier on at the start of the race. There's Maro to the left of your picture. Great car control from the German to avoid a bigger accident.
Yeah, I don't quite understand. I got hit about 4 or 5 times by René on the first lap. Yeah, I don't know what he had for breakfast this morning. But took some damage from it. The exhaust was squashed, and yeah, actually nearly lost the car as well. So lucky to not crash.
So it's Thomas Preining that leads from Clement Schmidt, Tim Heinemann in third, Dennis Olsen in fourth place as we get the race back up to speed after the safety car to recover René Rast stricken BMW. Bortolotti next up, followed by Engelhardt in sixth, Guen, Oega, Engel and Auer rounding out the top 10. 11th, and a pretty decent start for Sheldon van der Linde. But this is the key battle here for second place. You've got one Porsche trying to fend off one Lamborghini, and another Porsche, Dennis Olsen, trying to get past the pair of them and looking very racy on the restart, the Norwegian driver. So they are all absolutely together here. Running out wide though is Clement Schmidt, and that's the opportunity that Tim Heinemann needs. Through he comes. He's shown to be an absolutely fearless driver so far this weekend, and through he came in the background there. We had running wide a couple of cars, not least of which was former GT Masters champion Patrick Niederhauser. We're into the pit stop phase of the race. Kelvin van der Linde about to rejoin, having made his tyre change. At the inside of him comes his teammate Ricardo Feller there in the blue Audi. Ricardo's got his tyres up to temperature and he's on the attack, trying to find a way past Iongen Guwen here. Guwen is equally right behind Lucas Auer. And Feller, look, gets at the inside of the Porsche, but the Turkish driver closes the door almost onto the grass for Ricardo Feller. But he fires himself up the inside and gains the place. So he's the third best of the pit stoppers so far, behind Auer and Bortolotti. And look, right onto the tail of Lucas Auer, is still getting his tyres up to temperature. And that's another relatively straightforward move for the Audi driver. So Feller going well after the early pit stop.
Yeah, it was really good. It was tough, tight and fair fighting, and I hope it stays like this for the whole season. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Into the pits then for Marco Wittmann, the 2014 and 2016 DTM champion, and Project One with the BMW in their first weekend of the championship get him back underway. And a crucial stop here for the Manthey EMA team after the problems in the pit stop yesterday. Thomas Preining is on course for a race win here, and away he goes, lighting up the tyres. So coming out of the pits now is Tim Heinemann. In the background, you can see Preining and Olsen in their Porsches about to head into turn one. This is going to be tight, but of course Heinemann has got cold tyres and it takes about half a lap to get those tyres up to temperature with no tyre warming devices allowed in the championship. So Preining knows he needs to get on with this here and get past Tim Heinemann, because this effectively is going to be for the race win once everybody else makes their pit stops. Tim Heinemann is making that Porsche very wide indeed, and Thomas Preining still can't find a way through. And here comes Dennis Olsen. Look, the three Porsches together, and Heinemann, the longer he can hold them back, the more his chances. He's going to have to do it for a few more corners yet, though. He's doing a superb job so far, though, but he just goes a bit deep into the next turn, and Preining comes through. Olsen is going to try and follow him, but Heinemann has still got the nose of his car just in front, closes the door just before they get to the chicane, and holds on to a net second place, although Dennis Olsen having another look at the inside, and through he comes on the way into turn 14 to gain that place. So Heinemann, a brave effort there as we go aboard with Maro Engel running out wide and losing places as well on his cold tyres. But Maro will have fresher tyres than most, so he might come back at them at the end if he can get through, because you've got to work your moves hard here. So Preining pulling away, having made the most of that pit stop phase. And there in second place, we've got Tim Heinemann effectively. This is how it looked from the front splitter of Thomas Preinings's car as Tim Heinemann tried to keep him back. But tried in vain ultimately. And the Austrian able to come through, but he did a great job to then delay Dennis Olsen, who took a little bit longer to get past him, and that gave Thomas Preining a bit of breathing space. Here is a battle, and another battle involving Iongen Guwen, this time with Sheldon van der Linde in the BMW, has to avoid going around the chicane, rather goes through it, and that was the rather aggressive headlight flashing that was coming from Iongen in this battle with our reigning champion. Ultimately the BMW forced out wide, the Porsche diving up the inside, and there was some contact on the way into that final corner.
Lacking pace in qualifying twice, and then when you start from the back here, you just have no chance to come to the front. So generally we need to work on our quali pace for the next weekend and then see where we are. But yeah, if you start at the back, especially in Oschersleben, there's not really much chance to move to the front.
Now, of the lead group, the last one to make a pit stop was Christian Engelhardt, and there he is. He's come out in front of Tim Heinemann, Dennis Olsen and Clement Schmidt. So that's put him up to second place suddenly behind Thomas Preining. Great work from WRT.
The guys just did such a perfect, quick pit stop. I'm sure it's one of the quickest ones out there, and this is ultimately what gave me the track position.
Here with Martin Tomczyk, Motorsport Director of Abt. Can you tell us what happened with Kelvin van der Linde?
He had a drivetrain issue. It appears suddenly, unfortunately, because obviously we were in good points position and he felt well with the car. But unfortunately it happened on the back straight and he hadn't had any drive anymore, so he had to park the car there not to block the pit entrance.
All right, thank you very much, Martin. Back to you.
Big disappointment for Kelvin van der Linde and the team after a pretty good first race. Oh, what's that? An umbrella miles up in the sky. Mary Poppins has come to the DTM, everybody. Although I hope she's all right because she's let go of the umbrella. She's come to enjoy a day out at DTM. Many tens of thousands of people have done the same, but not enjoying his day out and trudging back to the pit lane, I'm afraid, is Kelvin van der Linde. Not his day today, but the South African, no doubt about it, is going to be a feature in this championship. Right, here are the cars behind the safety car, and news of a penalty lap for Marco Wittmann. This is new to DTM, so it's outside of turn 3, a penalty box area marked out. You have to serve your penalty within 2 laps. You have to go through that box, which is off the racing line, at a maximum of 50 kilometres an hour. And this is a replay of Thomas Preining's pit stop, because he too and the team are under investigation for not having controlled the tyres in the appropriate manner when they took them off the car. So this could be a huge moment for the team, because Thomas Preining, of course, is the race leader. It was a problem with the pit stop that cost them in race 1. Could it be a pit stop infringement from the team? To the eye, it all looks good, but the officials have spotted something, and this could be terrible news for Olaf Manto there to the right of the picture and the team. They don't look happy, so it could be that Thomas Preining is going to have to serve this penalty box area here as he comes in. So he'll do it as quickly as he can, but he's going to lose about 5 seconds. He's going to lose the lead of the race to Christian Engelhardt. Through 2 comes Tim Heinemann, and Preining tucks back in behind in 3rd place, just behind Dennis Olsen. An absolute heartbreak here for the Austrian, who'd been utterly dominating the race. Not long left now to try and find a way past Tim Heinemann and Christian Engelhardt to get back into the lead. Absolute dejection for him and for the team after what looked like an almost absolutely certain race victory. We're on the final lap of the race then here at Oschersleben, and it looks like it's going to be history made with a Porsche 1, 2, 3, 4. We've never had Porsches filling all 3 podium places before. It's their 2nd season in the DTM. They had a 1-2 finish last year, but Christian Engelhardt, it looks like he's going to be our 2nd new winner of the weekend, to add to the victory yesterday for Franck Pereira. Here he comes, and round 2 of the championship goes to Christian Engelhardt. Heinemann in 2nd place will pick up the championship lead on his debut, and 3rd place, and I'm sure utter frustration for the team and the driver, is Thomas Preining. Well, another thrilling race here with action-packed activity out on the track, but also some dramatic moments in the pits which have had their effect on the outcome of the race. But you've got to hand it to TalkSport WRT. Brilliant pit stop strategy. Christian Engelhardt drove the wheels off the car, and he is going to be utterly delighted with this. It's strange, really, that Christian, with all his massive amount of experience, has never been in the DTM full-time until this season. Well, I'll tell you what, everybody, he has now absolutely arrived in DTM. This first race victory, and maybe the first of many. A great day that for, well, at least most of the Porsche drivers. Not so, I'm afraid, for Thomas Preining. It's going to take quite a long time for him to get over this, but he will be back because he didn't do anything wrong as a driver. He drove absolutely brilliantly. One driver in Parc Fermé is overjoyed. The other is totally gutted.
And I'm here with Tim Heinemann. Congratulations from P2 to 2nd place. It's your 2nd time, yesterday as well, 2nd place. And now you're also championship leader in the first race weekend. So that's a good start, right?
It's a mega start, and to be honest, I'm speechless. To be a championship leader in DTM, I never dreamed of it. So, of course, I wanted to win, but Christian did a mega job. 1-2 for the team is just an incredible result for a new team in the championship. So I'm just happy.
Happy, and also for Porsche, obviously a very good day.
Yeah, Porsche seemed to be good on this track, but of course there will come other tracks like at Bullring where Porsche maybe is a bit more behind. So was a good start, but it's a long season.
So let's take a look at the official results of round 2. Christian Engelhardt, Tim Heinemann and Thomas Preining on the podium. Dennis Olsen was 4th, Clement Schmidt 5th, Mirko Bortolotti, more good points in 6th from Ricardo Feller. Yusuf Awega, who's been a star this weekend, Lauren Heinrich and Lucas Auer rounded out the top 10. Good to see Lugi back in the points after his horror crash at the start of the year at Daytona. And then Sheldon van der Linde at least picks up a few points, but not the weekend he was hoping for. Race 1 winner Franck Pereira coming home in 12th. And David Schumacher gets his first DTM points in 13th, so too Maro Engel in the points and Arjun Maini. An awful weekend, I'm afraid, for Lukas Stolz. One to forget for him, and René Rast, of course, with that early retirement after the wheel dramatically came away from his BMW. So there then on the podium are our very happy top three drivers, and TalkSport WRT celebrating their first DTM win as a team as well. Celebrations down there on the podium, but not for Tommy Preining.
Obviously, when you lead the whole race and do your job and everything goes well, including the pit stop and the outlap on the cold tires, everything was excellent. So it's very frustrating to lose the win with something like this. But in the end, we're all a team. Everybody can make mistakes. I don't even know exactly what happened, but that's racing.
You had a perfect race. All in all here, I mean, it was hot. It was a lot of action on the racetrack. But for you, I guess you managed to get away. And looking forward to in the next 4 weeks, though, I guess it might be a different story. Or are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, of course. I looked forward to this for so long, this race weekend. And yesterday was already a good start to get into the points first race. To win the second race is a dream come true. And I'm new this year with TalkSport, so I'm really grateful to achieve this success already in the first weekend together. But obviously it's going to be a long, hard championship. I'm just purely happy right now about this weekend. And
So let's take a look at the championship standings after the first two races of the season. Tim Heinemann, with 2 second-place finishes, is the championship leader, 42 points. And then 10 behind him are Franck Pereira, the Race 1 winner, and Christian Engelhardt, the Race 2 winner, both on 32 points apiece. Work to do for the rest of the season for the likes of René Rast, Kelvin van der Linde, Sheldon van der Linde and Marco Wittmann to try and catch up. Next time, we head to Zandvoort for rounds 3 and 4.
Phenomenal race weekend we had here in Oschersleben, the first of the new DTM era, the new DTM 2023. So many new faces, new everything, and it was just really a good start. We're all very excited because it was full of action, it was full of excitement, and we really are looking forward to the next race weekend, which will be in Zandvoort. So you can look forward to it too, and we'll see you then. So here are the highlights. Do enjoy and see you in Zandvoort. Bye-bye.